Sister Tebuho, how many members are in the platform?
We have 5 members, 6 now, Chair. Just another.
Chairperson, there are 7 members on the platform.
Okay. Has the minister joined?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Chairperson. Apologies. It's Nokwanda from the Minister's office. The Minister will be here in the next 5 minutes or so, so he asked us to join.
Yeah, because I was with him yesterday, and he indicated that he would like to attend this meeting and make introductory remarks before the two institutions table their reports. So you say he will be here in the next 5 minutes?
Yes, Chairperson. I'm just going to call him now, but yes, around about then.
Okay, please check him, because it
Sure,
will be
Chairperson.
important for him to make those remarks. And I think Mautwe will be happy that the minister today is not in Washington, is here.
I'll be happy, Chair, but waiting for 5 minutes for the minister is also uncalled for. You should be called to order. The meeting is starting at 9, not 9:05. This is not national treasure. It means he arrives late there, and he's going to sleep in this meeting of yours. You'll see.
Okay, now let's try to get hold of him.
and show my body, camera, everything.
Okay, bolela minister or monna ha rwa le ka tlung. Monna ha rwa lo rola futsi ka tlung.
Walini?
Well, I thought if
Maudwe?
no, Mount is always.
He had
excited
me,
when
he
she
took
says-
off his hat. A man does not wear a hat inside the house. So he had me, that's why he took it off.
No. In Parliament, not inside the house. This is
Uma
Parliament.
ujabulile
In my house, Mount gets excited when she sees me.
Hey.
yes.
But you might call it that agenda, you won't finish it. Our meeting will not even finish. Okay. Thank you very much. We're happy now. The minister is here. As I've agreed with him yesterday that they should come here and at least make introductory remarks. The meeting is officially open, and welcome everybody. Welcome all members of the Standing Committee Finance. Welcome the minister. I'm not sure if the two deputy ministers are here. If they are here, they are also welcome. Welcome the boards of director of GEPF and GPAA, our support team here in Parliament, the media, and everybody is welcome. Do we have roll call and apologies? This is the table.
No apologies except Mr. Lekhanyan said. The standing apology.
Okay. Let's record that apology of Honorable Khanyane at our committee. Okay. Today we are meeting here to receive two reports. The report of GPF and that of GPAA. So what we'll do, because the two institutions are interrelated, instead of getting a briefing from GPF, ask questions, let's get all the two reports following each other. Then we ask questions and make comments after the two reports will have been tabled. And as I've indicated that before, the two reports are tabled, we'll request the minister to make remarks on the two institutions. Over to you, Matiba.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you. Ordinarily, I would be asking the institution to just make a report, a response, but I want to just touch on two issues. The first one is that part of what we're trying to do is to ensure that GPAA becomes part of the GEPF. Let me explain you why. I've been in pension fund myself, being a member of the pension fund, and one of the big private sector fund in the kind of metal industry pension fund. You don't have the pension fund separate from its payment from this division that pays the benefit. It's not normally that you have a GPAA being separate from GEPF, because what GPAA does is an institution that pay public servants benefits from the GEPF. And it's a strange anomaly because the is not only is not only part of the GEPF, but is also an independent institution reporting directly to Treasury, which I think is an anomaly. Part of the transformation we're doing is to put GPAA in its proper place, being a division of the GEPF, because it pays its benefit. That's a broad point I wanted to put on the table. The second thing I wanted to put on the table, the reason ordinarily divisions and departments make their presentation without necessarily the minister there. I thought it important that I should come to this committee today and be part of the deliberation because of the challenges we faced in GPAA. A lot of corrupt activity was published, and we've since followed up on those. The report, we hope the acting CEO will explain how far are we with all of those disciplinary processes. We transferred Mr. Ngomezulu from the Department of the DDG for Corporate Services to act as CEO at GPAA until all the other key processes have been finalized. I just wanted to make those two comments, and then I'll allow the two institutions to make presentations, and thereafter I'll take any questions. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Minister, for those remarks. Let's invite GPF to present the annual report. I'm not sure who will start, whether the chairperson will want to make remarks or is the executive officer who will right away table the report. It's up to you. GPF.
Chair, good morning, Chairperson and honorable members, Minister, and the colleagues from GPF. We are a team here with the Deputy Chairperson and Chairperson of Audit and Finance Risk, Daten Sware Morotodi, and the executives led by the Principal Executive Officer. I will do the introduction briefly, Chair, and really appreciate that the Minister has also joined us, and also indicate, Chair, that I'm traveling. I might leave at one point because I have to catch a flight, but the Deputy Chairperson will be there and the executives will be there. Who is GPF? GPF, it is the largest pension fund which was established by the Government Employee Pension Law of 1996. We are the top pension fund in Africa. Globally, we are number 7. So in our league, you can see that we are performing much better than Kaizer Chiefs. We have 1.2 million members with just over 500 pensioners and beneficiaries. As we speak, assets under management, to round it up, is 2.7 trillion.
Chairperson, as Ujola angasmoshi mangafaki Kaizer Chiefs kule program.
Nyani,
Okay.
uyasmosha. Nyani, I agree
I
with you,
withdraw.
Minister.
I withdraw.
Please. Chiefs remains the leader of football society, as I believe.
I withdraw, honorable members.
Berlin. Don't start that war. You won't finish it, and I won't protect you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Berlin.
Thanks. And who and what does the GPF do? Let me invite the Principal Executive Officer to take us through to the rest of the slides. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, bye.
Good morning, Chairperson and all members of the committee. Good morning, Minister, and all members present in the meeting. Chair, I will take you through the presentation that we've already shared with with the committee chair. The Secretariat is trying to project that slide, but as they do that, Chair, I'll continue as handed over by the Chair of the GPF. What does the GPF do in terms of the Government Employees Pension Law? We provide pensions and related benefits to our members, pensioners, and their beneficiaries. And the GPF, through its board, Chair, manages and administers these pensions and related benefits on behalf of government employees. And in doing so, we invest these funds and we pay monthly pensions to pensioners. We also pay monthly child pensions. We pay spouses' pensions, as well as funeral and resignation benefits to those that qualify. Chair, from a governance perspective, the GEPF is governed by a board of trustees, and that is the executive authority of the GEPF. The GEPF board is made up of 16 members. 8 represent the employer, whilst the other 8 represent members and pensioners. The split between the 16 members is 8 employer representatives appointed through consultation with the Minister of Finance and 6 of the largest employer departments. And the other employee representatives, 6 come from the Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council. And then there's 1 pensioner representative who is elected through an election process amongst pensioners, and 1 representative of the Armed Forces and Intelligence Community that is also appointed through an election process. Chair, in terms of the GEP law, the board manages the fund in terms of the powers and duties conferred to it in terms of the GEP law. Thank you very much. On the next slide, Chair, the board of the GPF is supported by board committees, and the board committees in no particular order, the 6 main subcommittees of the board: the Benefits and Administration Committee that looks after benefits related matters, including communication and engagement with members; the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee that looks after all matters financial, risk and auditing. Under this Audit, Finance and Risk Committee is a valuation subcommittee that is responsible for oversight over the unlisted investment valuations of the GPF. Chair, we also have an investment committee that looks over the overall investment policy of the fund, as well as investment monitoring of the performance of the GPF investments, including oversight over the PIC. We have a governance and legal committee that looks after all governance-related issues and also provides oversight over the management of GPF's legal functions, litigation, and compliance. Under that subcommittee is a social and ethics subcommittee, which was introduced 3 years ago to look after the social and ethics matters of the GPF and provide oversight over the 2 main providers, GPF and PIC. Chair, we also have a human resources and remuneration committee of the board that takes care of all policies related to HR matters, as well as remuneration of both the board and staff members. And last but not least is an advisory board, which has oversight over the GPF's unlisted investments, which have been outsourced to the PIC. Chair, this is a new committee that was established in 2023 to have a specific focus over the oversight and monitoring of unlisted investments that are managed by the PIC. Next slide. Chair, our operating model, which I have touched on roughly, the board as the executive authority has outsourced the management of investments to the Public Investment Corporation, which is managed through an investment management agreement. That is the mandate that governs our relationship with the PIC, whilst our benefits are administered by the Government Pensions Administration Agency, which is governed through an administration agreement and an SLA that the 3 committees of the board provide oversight. The GEP law is also specific in some of the service providers that are mandated by the law. We have to have external auditors that are appointed by the board continuously. The fund has to have an actuarial evaluator at all times who is responsible for valuing the liabilities of the fund. We also appoint legal experts to assist the board and the fund in running the fund, as well as unlisted investment valuation experts to value our unlisted investments, which do not have an open market price for their values. And also we have the assistance of investment consultants. Chair, moving on to the key insights from our 2024-25 financial year. The portfolio grew its assets from 127 billion rand in 1996 when the fund was formed to 2.7 trillion rand as at March 2025. The funding level of the fund, as calculated by our valuator, was at 119% as at the 2024 statutory actuarial valuation. The fund has been stable over time with steady growth and expected returns that the actuaries have provided for in their valuation assumptions. The fund displays consistent and long-term performance despite notable market volatility, and I will take the committee through some of those highlights in later slides. And we've seen an improvement and a consistency in the benefit payouts that the GPF has made. Chair, the results of the GPF for the 2024-25 financial year has to provide a bit of context in what was happening in that year. We had the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which created a lot of conflict and turbulence in the markets, in the financial markets globally. Israel-Gaza conflict as well also contributed to that volatility. We had global high inflation as well as high interest rates at the time of this reporting. The global energy supply concerns also played a huge role in how the economies were performing across the globe, including the GEPF was affected within South Africa, as well as the South Africa rail and port infrastructure challenges, which create disruptions to logistics and movement of goods and services. On the next slide, these are administrative highlights. The fund had an investment portfolio of 2.69 trillion or 2.7 trillion at the end of March 2025. We paid out benefits of 167 billion rand for the year ended March 2025. There was a 13.1% increase in the investment portfolio in that financial year. And that largely came from investment income, which is returns on our investments that amounted to 379 billion rand. That translated into a 14.1% return on investment. Over a 10-year period, Chair, the growth in the reserves of the fund grew at 5.7%. That demonstrates how healthy the fund is and the stable growth that the fund is experiencing. Chair, still on the investment, the growth in the investment portfolio, as at the end of the 2023-24 financial year, the investment portfolio was valued at 2.38 trillion, and in 2024-25, it was valued at 2.69 trillion, which is reflective of that 13.1% increase. But over the period from March 2009, the investment portfolio was worth 661 billion, and to date, it's at 2.69 trillion. I beg your pardon, Chair. On the next slide, accumulated funds and reserves, those grow almost in line with the growth in the investment portfolio. Accumulated funds and reserves amounted to 2.65 trillion, and the average rate of growth over the last 10 years was 5.7%. So that shows the steady growth in the funds reserves that are accumulated over time. You will see on that slide in 2020, due to the impact of COVID and what it had, the impact it had on economies as well as the markets, there was a slight dip in our reporting at that time. We expect something similar this year because of the current impact of the conflict between Israel, US, and Iran. We expect that to impact us slightly when we report for 25-26 financial year. Chair, the growth in our investment portfolio, some of the major asset classes that have contributed to that is domestic and foreign listed equities, which saw a growth of 480 billion rand in the year, which is a 42% change. The domestic and foreign bills and bonds also grew at 19%, which contributed 132 billion rand in the increase in our valuation. And our domestic and foreign unlisted equities, those grew 62%, equivalent of 41.7 billion rand in the period. The detractor to our growth was the domestic and foreign collective investment schemes, which had a negative 91% decline in the valuation. Chair, moving on return on investment, average return percentages over a 10-year period. As indicated, the 2024-25 financial year, the GEPF had a 14.1% positive return on its investments. And over the years, the consistency that I spoke about, Chair, you will see that there's been positive throughout the years, save for 2020, which was the advent of COVID and the resultant impact on the market. The fund was able to recover within 3 months of the March 2020 financial year. As you can see, with the 2021 financial year close, we had a positive return of 23.1%. So the fund's long-term investment strategy allows us to bounce back because we are not a speculative investor, but a long-term investor with long-term views on the economy and the outcomes that are expected of the GPF. Chair, on the next slide, we contrast the contributions received and accrued over the years, which shows a steady increase in the contributions that we receive from our active members. That has grown from 2016, which was 60 billion rand a year, to 96 billion rand that we receive from our active members. This also correlates with the growth in the number of members that the GEPF has, Chair. Benefits awarded have also been increasing steadily over the years, and this talks to the profile of our members, largely retirements and some other forms of exits besides retirement. This has increased by 17.6%. Chair, if you look at 2016, we're paying benefits of 83 billion rand per annum. As at March 2025, we're paying 167 billion, and we expect to see this increasing as time goes by. The 2024 introduction of the two-pot retirement system has also had a slight impact on the increase, and we'll see this going forward with further withdrawals and more of our members retiring out of the system. Chair, the overview of our benefits, paid monthly annuities that makes up that 167 billion. We paid monthly annuities of 86.6 billion rand, and this is payments to our active pensioner population, including spouses and child beneficiaries. Our retirement cases, we had just below 40,000 retirements in 2024-25, amounting to 25.9 billion rand. Death cases were just over 5,700, amounting to 6.6 billion rand. Child's pensions was 1.4 billion rand in the year, and we paid beneficiaries of 28,263. We had 22,500 resignations in the year, amounting to 29.1 billion rand. Our funeral benefits amounted to 517 million rand, and that is an equivalent of 26,618 cases. The number of spouses that we pay, Chair, is 175, just shy of 175,000 spouses that make up our population of beneficiaries, including pensioners. Chair, just to highlight some of the social impact of our investments, the GPF has a developmental investment policy and a mandate under its unlisted investment portfolio. And we highlight some of the developmental indicators that our investments seek to achieve alongside the mandate to generate economic returns. So, Chair, the total number of jobs that some of our investments have delivered and contributed to the economy is 175,000. And of that, the youth employed is 23,391, and 1,285 are persons with disabilities. Chair, this is a cumulative number when we analyze the developmental impact of our investments. From an energy perspective, GPF investments contributed 2,035 megawatts to the grid, and we continue to look at continue our investments in the energy space. Chair, we've granted loans of over 689 million rand to a wide range of students. That also includes 17,000 beds that the GPF has contributed in providing and student accommodation. Chair, there's been a total number of 93 housing projects that have been completed through GPF funding, with 69,658 houses constructed. The GPF continues to focus on this segment as well so that it can assist its own members with housing to the extent that they do not qualify for same through normal commercial means. Chair, the GPF has supported 19 farms because we see agriculture as a key driver of our economy. From a health perspective, the GPF has contributed 1,320 beds through 10 hospitals and clinics that we've invested in directly and indirectly. From an ownership perspective, and this touches on GPAA, the GPF invested in entities that are 43% rated between a level 1 and level 3 BEE rating. So the GPF tries by all means as part of its developmental investment frameworks to impact the economies and lives of its members and the wider South African economy. Chair, that is the end of our presentation. I'll hand back to you. Thank you.
Thanks to the chairperson, Baleni, and the executive officer, Mabesa. Let's proceed to receive a report from GPAA. Over to you, GPAA.
Good morning, Chairperson, honorable members, Minister of Finance, GEPF and GPAA colleagues. I am sitting in the boardroom at the GPAA offices together with all EXCO members. They are here to support me as they know we are all in this together. So let's go direct to slide number 3. Slide number 3 basically talks about who we are as GPAA. We are established in terms of the Public Service Act with effect from 1st April 2010. We are established in terms of Proclamation 10 that was dated 26 March 2010. GPAA is a government component and a Schedule 3A public entity. So on this first slide, Chairperson, I just want to demonstrate the flow of cash between GEPF, PIC, GPAA, National Treasury, and military veterans, as these are our core customers. So in terms of our establishment to administer pension services, we do this to a very big extent to the GEPF, as you would expect, and then to some lesser extent for treasuries programs, as well as the military veterans recently. We administer that as well. So how does the cash flow between the entities? So contributions gets paid into a GEPF commercial bank account, contributions from members, which account is administered by GPAA. Then GPAA would transfer some of that money to the PIC, obviously under the auspices of the GEPF, for PIC to do their normal investment activities. And then GPAA, on a monthly basis, will send withdrawal request to the GEPF for the PIC to transfer money into the GPAA's pension account so that we can pay benefits. So that is just the cash flow between the three. How, you know, these days we like to say, how do you follow the money? Where is the money? For treasury and military veterans, we ask them for an advance in order to fulfill benefits payment for their contributory pension benefits members. So that is in a nutshell what GPAA is about in terms of this first slide. I'm going to slide number 2 just to give more detail. So in terms of slide 2, as I have alluded, we service government pension employees, pension fund members and pensioners. But we also serve for the year under review, which was 2024-2025. We had on the right-hand side for Treasury, we're serving the Temporary Employees Pension Fund, we're serving the Associated Institutions Pension Fund, the Post-Retirement Medical Subsidies, as per the resolutions of the Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council. We also pay military pensions, injury on duty, and special pensions and other VIP benefits. And as I have alluded, so this is the number of programs that fall under Treasury that we assist. Then obviously there's another program for the Department of Military Veterans where we assist them with paying benefits. The determination of benefits is not done by GPAA. It is done by the Department of Military Pensions. We just assist with disseminating the benefits to members who have been approved. But maybe still on this page, just suffice to say that the first 2 pension funds, the Temporary Employees Pension Fund and the Associated Institutions Pension Fund, have since, with effect from 1st April 2025, being amalgamated into the GEPF. So this part is moving from Treasury, it's getting into the GEPF. They are now a part of the bigger GEPF. So, and it was not an easy exercise amalgamating these 2 pensions into the GEPF. I think it took a number of years, but ultimately we have achieved that. And we're giving a clean handover to GEPF in this regard. Then I'm going to the actual programs of GPAA. We have 2 major programs. Program 1, which is basically the programs mentioned there: corporate services, finance, business enablement, strategic support, and governance. And then program 2, which is 2.1, the Treasury program, and then employee benefits. All of it, I guess this is GEPF. And then we have another sub-program called Client Relationship Management. So I'm going to take the committee through what each of these sub-programs are doing, what their APP indicators are, and the APP achievements. But still on this page, I just want to share that our structure, the organizational structure, which was approved on 13th February 2024 by the MPSA, Minister for the Public Service and Administration, has 1,244 positions. As at 31st March 2025, the year under review, we had 318 positions vacant. And the reason for this is that, as members would recall, we had a moratorium on recruitment of vacancies from 1st April 2023 to 31st March 2025. This moratorium was lifted on the 1st April 2025. So since the upliftment of the moratorium, GPAA managed to reduce these 315 vacancies to 203. 112 new positions were filled. Another matter of importance here is that all DDG's positions in GPAA are vacant, and there is a moratorium on that as a result of the planned measure or taking back GPAA under the auspices of GEPF. So a moratorium is set on these senior positions so that if there would be duplication, we don't have to have labor relations issues. So that's something to note. Then I will go sub-program by sub-program, the first one being corporate services. Corporate services, in terms of APP output indicators, indicator number 1, which is a percentage of persons living with disabilities. The target is 2%. GPAA has achieved 5.21%. And how we have done this was to encourage people who are living with disabilities to disclose. I know many departments are struggling with this indicator because they don't get it right in having programs that make persons living with disability to be comfortable to disclose. So GPAA has got this one right. And then the split percentage of female employees, just above the national target is 51, we are at 59.93. And then this, which was a problem or a challenge for GPAA, blacks, which includes Africans, Indians, coloreds. It was a challenge when GPAA was established. Now we're standing at 92.7%. I think this slide is just giving the vacancies per category, from top management to unskilled. The 315, as I have explained, has now reduced to 203. So obviously when we come next time, we would update. This is as per audited figures by the AGSA. What are the challenges? Even if we have managed to recruit 112, the challenges that the GPAA still faces is that the recruitment is basically done manually. And we have approached the National Treasury to benchmark on its e-recruitment system, which reduces the time from advertisement to shortlisting. So this system is assisting you with the first level of shortlisting. Therefore, it allows you to recruit more in a given financial year. And that's what we are putting in place. And of course, the vacancies themselves, the fact that you have vacancies is a problem to allow you to fill vacancies, because some of these vacancies are in HR. But that is something that we have put as an agenda item of EXCO to manage this vacancy reduction. The next two slides basically are just a spread for males and females with all other demographics. I guess members have gone through this. We will take questions on this. It's just to be transparent with our numbers. Not much to say here. Then we go into finance. I will go to this program at a high level, and later on towards the end, I will ask the acting CFO to take us through slide number 11, number 12, and number 13 to give you more detail of this program called finance, and number 14. But at the high level, GPAA has attained an unqualified audit opinion with material misstatements. And then the acting CFO will talk about these material misstatements. Most of them emanated from the contracts that are currently under investigation, and I will also give an update on the status of those investigations towards the end. But we have an unqualified with material misstatements, and we were transparent with the Auditor General. That's why we had an unqualified, meaning our set of books fairly represent the financial position and financial results of GPAA, hence an unqualified, which some people find it odd, but that's how auditing works. If you present what you present as fair and transparent, you are unqualified, irrespective of whether there were wrongdoings or not. Invoices, the issue of paying invoices within 30 days. In this financial year, the year under review, we had 9,730 invoices paid out of 9,735. So only 5 invoices were not paid on time. And the CFO will share with the committee how we want to achieve 100% invoice payment, more especially, to ensure the sustainability of SMMEs. The third indicator talks to unclaimed benefits. It has improved from the target. We must reduce unclaimed benefit by 50% every year. We have reduced it by 52.77%. And in terms of the value, we started unclaimed benefit at 687 million. We're closing it at 531 million. So that's I don't want to say commendable, but it helps that the figures are going down as far as unclaimed benefits are concerned. So let me leave it there. 11, 12, 13, 14, I'll hand it over to the CFO later on, so we can move direct to 15 slide. Is this the one? Yes. So this is a third sub-program, business enablement. You would recall, Chairperson, that on 14 February 2025, GPAA had a cyber security attack, and therefore the information regulator came on board. They did an audit, and based on that, they issued us findings. 91% of those findings were resolved by the end of the financial year. The CIFPEN is now being hosted outside our environment in a more secured environment. And there is backup solution for our on-prem and out loud AI and cloud systems. So these are the interventions that we have put in place since the cyber attack. Since then, we have had attempts, more attempts to attack us, but what we have put in place has ensured that they cannot penetrate. So the recent attacks were blocked before they could enter our environment. So we would continue to invest more money on this security operating center. As you know, CIFPEN is a very old system, but there is a solution for that I will talk to as I move on. The next sub-program is strategic support. So the indicator here was a percentage reached through digital communication channels. As you can see there, our reach to our members and pensioners is 70, against the target of 68%, it is 70.08. But other things over and above the APP itself that are happening in this unit. This is the unit that ensures that employees annually disclose their financial disclosures. We are doing well there, 100% of our SMS members, because this is it's a recurring, SMSs must disclose every year, and then years in between, we disclose for MMSs, middle management, and non-SMSs. So in this report, I'm reporting for SMSs, which was their time, and it is 100%. We have approved the ethics framework, which was a challenge, but ultimately we have done that with the intention of being able to roll out other activities that may lead to lifestyle audits if it so warrants. And then our business continuity maturity model, it is at stage 2, in line with the DPSA maturity model. Thank you. The next program is that of governance. And as you can see, we are more as a result of the nature of our environment, the things that have been reported, things that have been captured and reported. We are ensuring that the anti-corruption whistleblowing policies are not just approved, but they are implemented, they are effective. Our enterprise risk management maturity assessment is at level 3, which means 4 is the ideal. The other things are for the committee to read. Really, we've implemented the tip-off hotline, all the things that we need to do to ensure that the environment is free of interference, free of meddling in members and pensioners' records. And we have lots of police cases that we have opened under the enterprise risk management unit. We have lots of cases that are with SAPs, just to ensure that if we cannot prevent, because the ideal is to prevent this thing not to happen. But as we all know, you can have any best system, but human beings, when they collude, they will manipulate that system. So where we have not managed to prevent, it has happened. Now we must take action to deter those who want to do it again in future. That was the sub-program governance. Now I'm moving to benefits administration. I'm just going to talk to this at high level. So we have categories of benefits that we pay, as members can see there. High numbers, the activity is very high. But what is important here to display is that from financial year to financial year, the payment of benefits increases. Obviously, as we have more members, as we have more pensioners, here is to demonstrate to the committee the quantity of transactions that we are dealing with for a year, and that these are very huge numbers. Sub-program 2.1, this is the Treasury program and the Department of Military Veterans. We continue to effect benefits payment for these two programs, the Treasury one and the Military Veterans one. With Treasury, we are doing well with budget for this program. We can effect payment in line with claims because the budget is adequate. With military veterans, there is some issues there that needs to be sorted with the budget of the military veterans, because we can only pay if the funds are there. If there's no funds for military veterans, but when they don't get paid, they don't go to DNV. They come to GPAA and do it here and say, you are not paying us. So this is something that we need to address with military veterans. And if they need more money, they must go to Treasury. They can't come to GPAA. We don't have money here. We only distribute it to those who qualify. So next page is the statistics of what I have been talking about. As you can see, where we have claims and we have the benefits, these are our achievements, 100%, 99%. So what this is demonstrating is that, how are we doing on that? We were 2 minutes. Okay. So what this demonstrates is that where claims we receive complete claims with all documentation and the budget is there, GPAA pays almost between 99% and 100%. All right, and then we go to the next slide, 21, employee benefits. So we're just highlighting hot topics around the new area 2-pot system. Obviously, we know it was a frenzy. It was all over. It's still all over. We have just reopened the 2-pot system, so the applications are high. And with our old antiquated system, every time there is a new change to the rules or the law, we have to amend rules of the system. And sometimes it's not easy. It takes a trial and error testing before you can effect such a type of a new change in regulation or law. But just the numbers there, GPAA has managed to pay 564,547 members to the value of 15 billion rand as a result of the 2-pot system. And as I say, we continue to improve processes as and when any. The last 2 points I mentioned in previous pages, where I confirmed that the AIPF and TEPF are now amalgamated with GPAA. They are no longer No, they're amalgamated with GEPF. They are no longer under GPAA. Employee benefits. Again, here there's only one area that, or two, I may say, that are not green. It was the benefits for the AIPF. So obviously it was an issue then in that financial year. Now this will be removed and be part of the bigger GPAA process, and the TEPF are the same thing. Yes. Program 2.3 line, the relationship management. This is the unit that goes out on outreach programs throughout the country to go and meet our active members as well as our pensioners. For both the GEPF and National Treasury, and lately also for Defense of Military Veterans. So we have a program for the whole year that ensures that we reach most of the corners of the Republic to ensure that we update the records of our members, we give them an opportunity to interact with GPAA. We have walk-in centers, we have satellite offices, we have mobile offices in a form of those mobile buses. We have a self-service app. So we have a number of ways on how to interface with our clients. Let's move to the next, just to give an examples of those. Applications that we use to liaise with our clientele. So we have the following channels: bulk emails or single emails, SMSs, interactive voice recorder, self-service, mobile, push notification, WhatsApp, and other social media. So these are all the channels that we have implemented and put in place to ensure that there is we can be reached by our members and pensioners. The next slide. 9. Okay, thanks. I'm just checking my time to make sure we finish within 40 minutes. The next slide is the statistics of all those channels, some of the channels that we spoke about on the previous slide. We're just showing on the left-hand side per quarter the number of calls that the GPAA is handling. And then on the right-hand side, the visitors serviced at the call center. You can see for this financial year, we had just under 1 million calls and just under 700,000 walk-in centers. And then the APP targets for client relationship management, as you can see, they are all green. I don't want to waste time there. The next slide is where we show since 2020, 2021, the APP targets of GPAA has only gone one way, to the north so far. We targeting for 87, no, 100%, targeting for 100%. And then the last aspect before the CFO comes in, the last aspect, because our main system to discharge our obligation, which is payment of benefits and taking on new members, is the civil pensions system that is very, very old. We are currently in a process of getting a new, we call it a new CIFPEN, that would allow us to be agile. When there is a rule change, it's easy to change, to adapt, whereas this one, it's not easy to do that. So that's what the organization, in conjunction with GEPF, we're working on this together with the GEPF to ensure that there is an alignment when the new system ultimately comes on board. That system would have financial management, client relation management, and pension administration. So these are the core of what we're doing here: the pension, our clients, and of course, ensuring that the finances are in order. Chairperson, I have come to the end of this presentation, bar what the CFO must share with us in terms of the finances. And after the CFO, I will get into what the minister has requested that I give an update on in terms of what is the status of the investigations that has been instituted, the progress, and where are we. I will do that at the end after the CFO. Through you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO, and good morning to the Chair, the Minister, and the honorable members. I'm going to take you through on a very high level on the financial performance of GPAA. What we see in front of us is the audited financial performance as 31st March 2025. On an overall, GPAA actually have a revenue of 1.5 billion. In terms of the budget as well as the expenditure, 1.5 billion. So in terms of the actual revenue, we have collected 1.7 billion, which is above what we have budgeted. We have a positive variance of 204 million. In terms of the compensation, the budget was 619 million, but the actual expenditure is 639 million, which is above what is being budgeted. In terms of goods and services, we have budgeted 729, but the actual expenditure is 827 million, which results in overspending of 97.8 million. On capital expenditure, Chair, we have a budgeted of 188 million, but the actual expenditure is 203 million, which results in overspending of 15.5 million. In total, the expenditure for GPAA was actually overspent by 133.8 million. If we go to the next slide, we are going to provide the reason for this variance, which is reported on a very high level, Chair. GPAA as an administration is actually receive income through the cost recovery base in terms of the agreement between GEPF and National Treasury. So out of the 1.5 billion, 93% of the revenue comes from GEPF and 7% come from National Treasury. This revenue is the one that is being used to pay the employees, to pay for the goods and services that we receive, as well as the capital expenditure where GPAA is spending. In terms of the over collected, which is 204 million, we have a positive variance on revenue. The other income stream are minor, but outside the approved budget, which is actually not reported here. If you go to the next slide, we are now providing a high level in terms of the expenditure. Compensation, if I start with the compensation, Chair, we are actually overspending by 20.4 million, and the main reason of this overspending during the adjusted estimate of the budget, which was 24-25, this budget was actually brought down. That is the main reason why we are overspending. On goods and services, we also overspent by 97.8 million, and the main cost drivers which are being listed here is the consultants, professional service, travel subsistence, less communication, repairs, but the details, Chair, is being captured on our annual report. Capital expenditure as well, we are overspending by 15.5 million. But all in all, Chair, these are the figures that are being audited since GPAA depend on GEPF and National Treasury. They are not depending on the vote. So what is being reported here is not regarded as an authorized expenditure. If you go to the next slide, Chair, we are reporting the audit outcome. As we all know that we have concluded the audit process in November, Chair. We concluded the audit process in November, and the GPAA obtained unqualified audit opinion with findings. I want to explain the material misstatement. When we submitted the financial statement on 31st May, this financial statement contained material misstatement. But during the audit process, those material misstatements were corrected, and some of them has to do with the irregular expenditure as well as the fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Chair, on the irregular expenditure which is being reported, GEPF has incurred an irregular amount of 48.5 million for the 24-25. Chair, I want to say that the loss control function is conducting determination tests on these matters. Consequence management will be instituted. After that, we'll be able to apply condonation. On the fruitless and wasteful expenditure, Chair, GPF reported 96.8 million for the 24-25. I want to say out of this amount, Chair, GPAA managed to get the money back from the service provider, which is 35.5 million, which was refunded. So the figure will actually be reduced, but most of this fruitless and wasteful expenditure has to do with the forensic investigation that is still underway. So after that, we'll be able to take the matter forward, whether some of the contracts are being cancelled, whether some of the money need to be recovered. So all in all, GPF, Chair, will still maintain financial management and as well as strengthening the financial governance within GPAA. So I would request, Chair, just to end here. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Chipa. I think now that we have received the two reports, let's proceed to the next item, which is the interaction by committee members. Ask questions and make comments. Honorable members, over to you. I see a hand written government pension. Which hand is this, Sister Tebo?
Is the GPAA boardroom chairperson?
GPAA boardroom, raising a hand.
Yes, it was on the minute of the presentation that I said after the CFO, I will give an update before we close through you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Please do so. Please do so. Then we'll take the questions.
Thank you, President. I'm told we did our presentation in 40 minutes, which means we were on target. This will be 1 minute. Minister requested that I give an update on the investigation. So 5 contracts were flagged for investigation. Investigators were appointed As at today, 3 reports have been submitted, meaning the 3 contracts investigation has been concluded. We're only awaiting the remaining 2 investigation to close. However, even that being the case, we have proceeded with the following. The 2 suspended EXCO members have been put on precautionary suspension until 30th April 2026 in terms of the labor laws. The charge sheet was served on them yesterday. Dates for the hearing of the disciplinary process is being discussed between the presiding officer, their respective legal representatives. And on the issue of the CEO, the disciplinary process commenced, and I think there was also a media report to that effect. The first part happened from the 2 to the 6th of February, and then it is still continuing again from the 13th of March onwards until the 3 matters are finalized. So I thought I'd give that update as was requested. Thank you, Chair.
No, okay, thanks for that information. Let me go back to request members to ask questions. Honorable Berg, Honorable Beasley, Honorable Mazibuko. Honorable Berg, Dr. Berg, over to you.
Morning, Chairperson. I'm switching my camera on briefly so that you can see it's not AI speaking to you. Before I start with my questions to the GPF, can we just get via you confirmation, Chair, that the CEO, Musa Mabesa, is still on this platform?
Chair, yes, I'm still in the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you to the CEO and via you, Chairperson. I will note that individuals do not have the ability to come to this committee and indicate to us when they will leave. The Chairperson will dismiss you or you will not be dismissed. But getting on to my questions. On the pension fund increases, in 2025, pensioners got a 2.9% increase. In 2024, the GEPF CEO earned 9.5 million rand. In 2025, the CEO took home 10.342 million rand. Now, Chairperson, that's a hike of 8.9%. And so I want to know from the CEO, how do you justify paying yourself almost 9% more, but can't even increase pension salaries by 3%? On the party recommendations as it relates to the GEPF, we've had the PIC tell us that the party recommendations were all fully implemented, even though that's false. One of the recommendations was to look into the dealing between Harith and the PIC and funding of Harith, including with GEPF money. The PIC's documents tell us that an independent investigator was appointed to look into the matter in 2021, and that investigation was completed, and the report was adopted by GEPF boards. Within 1 week of today, through you, Chairperson, can we see that report adopted by the board, please? On to unlisted investments. Most of the PIC's unlisted investments are funded by GEPF money. Returns on the Isabaya Fund has been dismal, to say the least. We have at any one time 30 investments in a turnaround unit, and it's a unit that the Auditor General says is undercapacitated. So to the GEPF, do you still allocate new capital every year to the PIC for unlisted investments and property? And while we're speaking about development impact, how many jobs have been lost by the GEPF investments by going bankrupt over the last 5 years? We also would like to see an audit report on Harith and the PIC related to the party. Chair, ignore that question. It's covered under my previous question. But the audit report that I do want to refer to is the AGSA one, I see there's an external audit report, but I don't see an AGSA report in your annual report, which was presented today. Can you tell us why there is no AGSA report? Chair, I'm going to move on then to the GPAA. We have 9 individuals who are implicated in multiple scandals reported in the media. And so far, unless you have news, we've only seen 3 individuals suspended and no one fired. You gave us an update now today about some charge sheets and whatnot. I want to know, it's been more than 6 months since the story broke. Has there been dismissals? And am I correct in understanding the CEO is drawing a 2.5 million rand salary while sitting at home? Eric Marudu, the suspended general manager, is also sitting at home drawing a 1.4 million rand salary. So why is the GPAA not written to the SIU to ask for an investigation? And why is the asset forfeiture unit not seizing BMWs at this point? As it relates to the GPAA's Auditor General report, the AG points out that there was 48.5 million rand in irregular expenditure, 97 million rand in fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And then the Auditor General writes, and I quote, "I was unable to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence that disciplinary steps were taken against officials who had incurred irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure as required by section 38(1)(h)(3) of the PFMA. This was because investigations into such expenditure were not performed." Could you please speak to this a bit? And then onto the GPAA so-called targets. The indicated 25 speaks about the percentage of temporary employee pension fund or TEPF benefits paid within a set period, which is 45 working days. I would note that's a very long timeline. Of the liability date, excluding death and unclaimed benefits after receipt of duly completed documentation. They've got a target of 80% and a performance of 0%. I want to know, how many reports are you aware of in the GPAA of bribes being solicited for GPAA payouts? Chair, I will circle back with some more questions once these have been answered, and there will be some follow-ups on those. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Beasley.
Thank you, Chair, and greetings to everybody on the platform. So I'm mainly covered by Honorable Burke, but just a couple of things. Just in terms of the unlisted investments with GEPF, do they themselves provide any oversight on that? Because we do understand it's a small percentage of their funds, but that doesn't excuse non-performance or fraud or corruption or anything. So do they provide their own oversight on that rather than just relying on the PRC? Because ultimately it's their responsibility to protect people's money. And then just in terms of the merger, if the finance minister is still around, or if not, if somebody can just, when can we actually expect this merger to take place? Because for these 2 entities to be running separately is just nonsensical. It's costing huge amount of money. It's costing the fiscus money. It's costing pensioners money. And I think the sooner we can put the 2 together, just makes so much sense. So that's just from my side. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Beasley. Honorable Talega Mazibuko.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm going to focus my questions on the presentation by GEPF. And Chair, my first question was is the GEPF convinced that their assets allocation mandate to the PIC is structured in a manner that supports economic growth and job creation, which are the main key elements of the country for the country to deal with the issues of inequality, poverty and unemployment? And my second question, Chair, is how does the pension fund contribute to the transformation, particularly in shifting ownership patterns, noting that the Pension Fund Act Regulation 28 only allows for a 5% asset exposure for non-listed companies? And my last question, Chair, we've just introduced the 2-pot system which has just been introduced by Treasury. So what effect does this system have on the assets of the GEPF and on the funds of individual holders who made withdrawals? Furthermore, Chair, does the GEPF then propose any further changes to the Pension Fund Act in order to develop more mechanisms to elevate the cost of living and to support workers for major financial demands? So that's the questions that I have for GEPF, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Honorable Mazibuko. Honorable Squati.
Thanks, Chair. And let me welcome the submissions and the presentations that have been made by both GEPF and GPAA, and express words of gratitude for the leadership to be here, because, Chair, it would have been bad if the leadership did not show up, particularly the minister, but also the chairpersons and the executives for the presentation, because the minister is the one who is actually leading. So we really appreciate the presence. Chair, on GPF, just one question on as to what are the actual investments of domestic and foreign collective investment schemes, which economic factors resulted in the drastic decline of over 200 million in one financial year, equivalent to 91% decline, and which asset managers managed these funds, and are there any actions that are taken in that regard? And I would further recommend, Chair, to GPF that perhaps there is a need to review the mandate with the intention to increasing exposure of assets to non-listed allocations, which would benefit the SMME funds and the industrial sector, to lower allocations of financial sector organizations that are dominant in the JSE. Because, Chair, as long as we do not have SMMEs that are being supported through this fund, it would mean that we'll never ever be able to deal with the issues of SMMEs, but also the growth of the economy, because we realize the role that is played by the SMMEs. Yes, we do understand the issues that are there in the unlisted, but it is important to note that as long as the majority of those SMMEs are left out, are excluded in terms of the allocation of assets, we will never be able to deal with the issue of economic growth. And secondly, Chair, is for GPF to really look at some of the areas that have been left out in terms of, is the National Treasury, in terms of GPAA, particularly as they are preparing for the merger, which I think it's a good thing to be done. For we are awaiting the merger, but those that are executive, positions, we need to really make sure that the roles that are supposed to be played by those, incumbents who are supposed to be appointed there, it's actually well meant. And I hope that we are taking that so that we do not necessarily continue to weaken GPAA due to the role that it's supposed to be playing. Because if there is no leadership, definitely we are going to, for a long time, we are going to experience a lot of issues. And as well, if we were to be, informed as to how long will those vacancies take, or the turnaround in terms of the merger, but also in terms of dealing with those vacancies. To GPAA, Chair, we also observe that the overall entity has met most of the performance targets, but the vacancy rate, as I'm saying, is still remaining very high. Now, if the minister was to actually, just give us progress has been given, but how long do they think it will take for the entire report to be finalized? Because we're saying that we've got two areas that we still need to deal with. We've completed two. We've got two areas to deal with. How long is it going to take if we were to be, clarified there, so that we know that these issues are going to be ultimately dealt with? Because if we have only dealt with three, it means the two remaining might actually continue to hamper progress in that regard. The other question, Chair, is what are the limitations of GPAA in the appointment of minority groups relative to the African category? And I would as well recommend, Chair, that if the committee can actually receive the report in terms of the investigations, so that we are able to deal with it as a committee for those non-existent, investments or leases in the building report. And that we welcome the fact that the GPAA is also going to strengthen its digital services and make sure that we reduce the risk that is actually there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Scott. Those are the questions. Let me start with GEPF and then come to GPAA. GEPF.
Can I start, Chair?
Thank you, Chair.
Can I start, Chair?
Or you won't come at the end, Madhu?
No. I want to protect the GPFC principal officer. And that's why I start first. Let me just say, the question being asked to him about his salary is an unfair question. He does not decide his salary. The board, of course, in consultation, we shall make the final decision. And in making that decision, we're going to make an evaluation. What are the kind of evaluation we are making in a situation like this? If you look at GPF, you look at PIC, you look at DBSA, you look at IDC, all of those institutions, the skill set you require there are comparatively otherwise on a market basis with other financial institutions. That's why even at the moment we've got a critical shortage of skills in PIC because we're not paying market-related rates. So if you look at the principal officer and you ask yourself the question, which other institution has got assets under management to this size? And you make that comparison, how our other asset managers and how other pensions are paying and managing assets of this size. None of them are paid this amount. All of them are paid better. And in addition, they are given bonus incentives, they are given share incentives, which does not happen in this environment. So when we want to retain skills, we've got to take all of those things into account. And I'm saying it is unfair to pose that question to him. That question, we take full responsibility for that question. The second point is
Dr. Beck, I won't allow you to do that. Stop it.
It's no, Chair, you can't tell me. I can't raise a point of order.
No, don't do that. Allow the minister to respond.
You're making a ruling that points of order are no longer in order.
Yes, you are out of order. Allow the minister to respond. You ask the question, he's responding. Please don't do that. Minister, proceed.
Yeah. So, Chair, I think we should not trivialize the issue of skills in these institutions. In managing assets of this magnitude, we need necessary skills and we must retain them. And that requires a better salary and better incentive. for now, we're not even less than what the market rate is providing to institutions of this nature. The second issue is one raised by Mr. Baisley in relation to how fast can we do the measure. I agree with him. The problem is these institutions, all of these institutions and their setup, they are embedded in legislation. We're in the process of making those legislative changes first, which will, but while we are doing parallel the process of integration, but to conclude it, we need to repeal the act. Yeah, I just wanted to make those two issues. Thank you, Chairperson.
Through you,
Thank
Chair.
you, Minister. And then let's come to GPF, Chairperson, Berlin.
Thank you, Chair. I think the first point has been covered by the Minister. I can confirm that there's a detailed process which is being followed in order to adjust salaries of staff members, including the PO. Market benchmarking is done and the grading of positions. So the Minister has covered that. I just want to comment, before my colleagues can add, on the PIC unlisted investments. We are equally concerned as a board. When the PO was reporting, indicated that there is an advisory board which was not long established to ensure that we focus on this unlisted investment, right? As we speak, we have been engaging VIC. For an example, when it comes to property, we have put a moratorium, not that they don't get allocation on request, which we have to assess, but to ensure that there is a particular process to clean up the unlisted space. Thank you very much, Chair. I will hand over to the PO.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks to the Chair of the Board and the Minister for the first few responses. Chair, I'm with the executives of the GEPF and I'll hand over to them to answer some of the questions. Chair, on the pension increases, the GEPF has a pension increase policy and the GEP law also dictates how pension increases should be determined. In summary, the GEP law requires that a minimum of 75% of the year-on-year inflation number as at the previous November preceding the increase on 1 April should be used as a minimum. To the extent that it's affordable, the board can grant higher increases, and that is what the board has done over the last 10 to 11 years, where it has granted 100% of inflation, barring 1 year where it granted less than 100% but above the 75% increase, and the following year it made up for that with an increase higher than 100%. So we stick to what the law requires, and to the extent that it's affordable, the board can grant higher than the minimum. There are multiple factors that our actuaries consider in determining a pension increase, and that extends beyond just looking at pensioners and the cost of living at the time, but it's looking at the entire membership demographics of the fund and the long-term nature to ensure the sustainability of these benefits into the future. So that is how pension increases are determined in the fund. We have been looking at exercises to understand whether the November year-on-year inflation number may not be the right indicator. So far, our analysis indicates that there is not much change in terms of the impact between November and March, which is the month before the April increase. We'll continue to observe some of these matrices as we assess the pension increases going forward, but the most important is understanding our compliance with the GEP law and our pension increase policy. Chair, the second question from Honorable Burke on the Party Commission report findings and the investigation into the Pan-African Infrastructure Development Fund, which Harith manages. The investigation was conducted with which both GPF and PIC boards accepted the final report, which looked into this investments, and this date back to 2006 and 7. Chair, the establishment of the fund at the time was done through the PIC, who assisted in the establishment of Harith, and the fund GPAA was a significant investor in that fund. It was found that the fees that were being charged were market related, and the investments that the GPF and other investors had made in the fund, there was nothing untoward that was found in that report that was presented as investigated after the Party Commission of Inquiry report. Chair, I must hasten to mention that the Party Commission of Inquiry report was focusing on the PIC, but there were some recommendations that were made to the GPF specifically, and that had to do with oversight and monitoring of our investments, as well as fixing the relationship between GPF and the PIC. The chair of the board has already mentioned that the establishment of an advisory board committee which oversees the unlisted investments specifically, over and above what the investment committee of the GPF does, which is the oversight over all the investments, that was meant to ensure that there is dedicated focus on the monitoring of unlisted investments, including the appointment of independent experts on that advisory board committee. Chair, what the GPF does as well on a management level is we have an investment liaison committee meeting between ourselves and the PIC. This is the executives of the GPF, including management functions within the investments teams. And at a board level, the investment committee as well as advisory board committee does meet with the PIC investment committee on a regular basis. And these are scheduled meetings in the calendar of the GPF and the PIC. Both boards as well have twice a year to have a board-to-board engagement, which is part of the efforts to strengthen the relationship between the GPF and the PIC, including the monitoring thereof. And lastly, on this point, Chair, the Party Commission of Inquiry recommendations led to a revised investment management agreement between GPF and PIC, which became effective on the 1st of April 2022. That new agreement has a lot of controls in it, and there are measures in there to hold the PIC accountable whenever they do not comply with the mandate. But through the relationship that we have with the PIC, we're able to caution and also signal when there may be deviations to that investment mandate. The board continues to provide oversight over the historic investments that were subject of the Party Commission of Inquiry, and that's what's taking up some of the time of the GPF and the PIC in trying to understand and clean up on those historic investments. What the new mandate allows for is for new investments going forward to be looked at in a robust manner, and the investment oversight within the GPF has also been strengthened by the increased number of investment professionals that look after these portfolios. I'll hand over to our head of investments, Mr. Sivia, to talk to the performance numbers as asked by Honorable Burke, and then I'll come back to deal with the other questions, Chair.
Thank you, PO, and through you, Chair, and good morning to the committee. So speaking to the question around Isibaya Fund returns, so what I'll clarify is that Isibaya portfolio does have at least 4 portfolios in there, and the returns within each of those portfolios does vary. What we do have in the GPA is a set of return targets for each of the portfolio, but broadly we also measure the performance of investments against the growth of liabilities in the fund, which is broadly around CPI plus 5%. So at the moment, that represents about 8% in terms of the return target. So in looking at the Isibaya portfolio returns, you have Isibaya Legacy Fund, which has returned since inception about 9.6%, which is above the 8% return target. We have Isibaya Fund 1, which is at 6.2%. That is below the 8% target. We have Isibaya Fund 2, which has a negative 0.5%. That is below those that return target. And then the most recent vintage, which is Isibaya Fund 3, is higher at 14.3%. So that does show a difference in the picture. And what we've seen is that Sibaya Fund 3 has outperformed, and owing to the interventions that the GPF has made over time, and through the revised investment management agreement that was signed in 2022 in April. So that's to answer that question. And then with regard to the question around additional investments that would be made or extended to Isibaya, that is the case. Due to the revised investment management agreement that was in effect from April 1, 2022, an allocation of about 25 billion was made to the Isibaya portfolio, Sibaya Fund 3. And as part of that investment agreement, a review was made to the same, where we look at how much capital has been deployed, the performance, and whether the capital amount that has been allocated can be reviewed. There was an increase to that 25 billion to 41, and owing to the review process that forms part of the investment management agreement. I also mentioned that as part of the oversight bodies that the PO mentioned and the board chair, this review was went through all those oversight bodies that were mentioned as well. In terms of the investment performance of the GPF, the question was made around the interventions with regard to economic growth and employment. The asset allocation of the fund, what we refer to in the GPF as the strategic asset allocation, which is the asset allocation that the GPF should maintain in order to meet long-term investment objectives, which is to ensure that liabilities are met. This asset allocation allocates 80% towards the South African economy. That is quite conservative considering other pension funds, which are compliant to Regulation 28. And those pension funds generally allocate about 45% outside the South African economy. The GPF allocates 80%. And this contributes towards local economic growth and employment. In addition to that, the GPF does have a transformation policy. A transformation policy statement is made available on the GPF website, where amongst others, we mention the several developmental initiatives that the fund has made through its investment. One of them is allocating towards Black investment managers, and an amount of about 340 billion has been allocated to Black fund managers within the South African economy as part of this policy. Then also as well around the investment performance, the change over the financial period 25 to 24, from 24, one of the major movements there was as a result of the foreign markets there. So if you go to the financial of our annual report on page 4, we do give the details around the movements, and mostly it's been the movements of the foreign portfolios at that time. So those were the key results and what led to the movements there. With regard to SME funds or SME development in general, the GPF in its AUM, we target about 15% of our AUM towards unlisted investments, and that includes the Isibaya portfolio and property fund. And there, those investments go directly into the economy, and predominantly it's towards the benefit of SME and funding. In the new mandate, at least about 1 billion is specifically allocated to SME development. So I'll park it there, Chair, for in terms of the questions that have been asked.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll ask the Head of Investments to deal with the AGSA or the lack of an AGSA report.
Head of Finance.
Head of Finance.
Thank you, PO, and good morning to the committee and to the colleagues. With regards to the fact that there is no report for the AGSA in our annual report, is because the GPF is not audited by the AGSA. We are audited by independent external auditors that are appointed by the board on an annual basis. And if you look on page 96 of our annual report, that is where you'll find the independent auditors report of our financial statements. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. And then to the head of benefits and actuarial, Chair, to deal with the questions on two-pot and the implications of two-pot. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, PO, and good morning to the colleagues and to the committee. So essentially what happens when we pay a savings withdrawal benefit, we're paying a benefit that has been earned by the members, but at an earlier point in time than retirement. So as with the payment of any benefit, it means that it reduces the assets that are available, but it also reduces the obligation or liability for the GPF. So when we look at it from that point of view, it is financially neutral. As to the question around the impact on members, so I like to express it in terms of leave days, in that if you utilize a benefit, what happens is that it then reduces what you're entitled to. So similar to how if you have a certain number of leave days and you take those leave days, your balance reduces. A similar thing applies to your pension benefits. If you cash in on what is due to you, it just means that your remaining balance reduces. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, thank you. And then we had missed one question from Honorable Squati on the collective investment scheme, the foreign collective investment scheme, and the reason for the decline. I'll ask the head of investments to come back and deal with that decline, Chair.
Chair, thank you. So in terms of the collective investment schemes, it is in page 127 of the annual report. So what we see there is essentially there was a decline in the value, and it's mainly a financial statement treatment where those balances were reallocated to another part of our financial statements. So it's not to say that the managers which were allocated there, and looking at the report now, which is BlackRock, etc., that money was removed or terminated from them. It had to be reallocated to another part of our financial statements. We can respond to this in writing with more detail. Thank you, Chair.
And Chair, the questions from Honorable Beasley were answered by the Minister, and we envisage not more than 24 months to finalize the legislative processes on the GPAA, GEPF merger, the legislative processes, the consultation with labor unions as well as staff, and ensuring that we establish the necessary frameworks for the transfer or the merger, as it were. And then, Chair, there was a question from Honorable Mazibuko on the proposals that GPF may make to changes to the Pension Funds Act. Currently, the GPF does not fall under the ambit of the Pension Funds Act, but through the current Conduct of Financial Institutions Bill that is going through the necessary legislative drafting and consultation processes. Once the GPF falls under the ambit of the Pension Funds Act or the Retirement Funds Act, as it will be known, we will be able to contribute towards those discussions. So the GEP law is currently the enabling legislation for the GEPF. Thank you, Chair. I think we've covered all the questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Let's invite GPAA.
Thank you, Chairperson. We have 3 sets of questions.
We are, Chair, can you still hear the GEPF?
Yes.
Hello.
Okay, can the committee still hear the GPA?
Now is the time for GPAA to respond to questions. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairperson. We have. We can hear you, GPF. Chairperson, I'll start with Honorable Burke's questions. He asked about 9 individuals being reported in a newspaper and only 3 being suspended. He's also asking about whether we have the records of bribes and corruptions. He's also asking whether there has been dismissals, the SIU individuals earning salaries whilst at home. So I'm going to split my questions as such. Bribes and corruption, I'm going to give to the Chief Risk Officer, who has a detailed list of the cases we have with SAPS. The CRO, Chief Risk Officer, will talk to bribes and corruptions. Mr. Honorable Burke also asked about the target for GEPF of 45 days. Why we're missing that? The CIO will respond to that. Honorable Burke also asked about irregular expenditure reported by the Auditor General. The CFO will answer that. Let me take the others and then the colleagues will come in. No, there has not been dismissals. We have not dismissed anybody simply because we're following a legal and a labor relation process. My understanding is that we have to adhere to the laws of the country. And that's the process that GPAA is embarking on. People are on precautionary suspension with pay. That is a labor relation requirement. So they will continue to earn the salaries because it is a precautionary suspension that is intended for them not to be in the office so that they do not interfere with the investigation. I think that is normally what is being done. It is in line with the law. So they will continue to be paid until there's a conclusion to the process. The 9 individuals reported in the newspapers where names are known, obviously internal process checked the veracity of newspaper reporting. You check that. You don't see 9 names and you say all 9 of you are on suspension. It doesn't work that way, Chair. That's why we have managed to put 3 on suspension, and then the rest we follow normal process. The asset forfeiture unit, the SIU, we are not there, Chair. We are not there. The SIU proclamation, we know, is a proclamation that can only be signed by the president. We are not there. The asset, I think these, I cannot respond to them in detail, the issues that are just put to GPAA. I will allow the colleagues to answer the other areas. Let's start with bribes and corruption.
Thank you, CEO. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson and members, and Minister of Finance and GPAA colleagues and GPF colleagues. In terms of the issue of corruption and bribes, we do have a challenge in that area. In terms of soliciting of bribes, although the numbers are not a lot, you might find we have 1 per quarter. To date for this financial year, we already have 2 cases. However, if you look at the number of cases that we finalized that involve internal employees, that we finalized and also reported to SAPS, out of the 10 cases, 7 speaks to soliciting of bribes. So 70% of the cases that we finalized and reported relate to soliciting of bribes, which involves our internal employees. So there is a concern in that area, which we're looking closely and working with SAPS on them. And there's also movement on those cases where one has already been sentenced, 3 cases are on trial, and 3 are still under investigation. Thank you.
Thank you. TEPF target, CIO.
Thank you, Chairperson, committee members, and the GPF. On the AIPF and the TPF figures indicated and the turnaround times for payment, as at 31 March 2025, we had 12 AIPF members that had the exit date prior to the amalgamation date of 1 April. And the percentage indicated is the numbers that have been paid there. So these 11, remaining 12 cases are ring-fenced, and both the operations team as well as our client relationship management team is following up with the applicable employers as well as the members to make sure that we get the information and get it paid. On the TPF, we only had 1 case with the exit date prior to 1 April 2025. The remaining 6 active members were also amalgamated to the GPF based on the low numbers. So we can confirm operations, CRM, constantly engaging, making sure we finalize these cases. The remainder we moved over to the GPF. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next question is the Auditor General and Irregular Expenditure, Acting CFO.
No, thank you, Chair. Thank you, CEO. Maybe just to start, to say to the Chair and the committee members is that GEPF has a loss control function committee, which comprises of the ESCO members. This committee chair, once an irregular or a fruitless and wasteful expenditure has been confirmed, we conduct a determination test where we collect information just to understand the root cause that leads to the irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. We also determine who is responsible for this irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure, whether there's any losses that was incurred by the GPAA, and also look at any breakdown in the design internal control system. Chair, just to report with regards to the all cases that are reported as irregular expenditure, I wish to confirm that warning letters were issued and application for condonation to the office of the Chief Procurement Officer were submitted. Some of the cases were not condoned, and we cannot appeal, but we can only request the CEO of GPAA to remove those cases. The cases that were confirmed as irregular for this current financial year, the Loss Control Function Committee is still conducting a determination test. Once we have completed that exercise, consequence management will be instituted as well as the application of condonation. So we have the irregular and fruitless register that we are monitoring these cases, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. The next question was from Honorable Beasley on the measure which the Minister has articulated on that process to merge GEPF and GPAA. So I want to reiterate that. Then there was the last set of questions for us from Honorable Sokwati. The vacancy rate, I think we must agree, it is a concern, definitely. The moratorium was not easy on GPAA, but since the lifting of the moratorium, as I said previously, we have fast-tracked the process amidst all the challenges of not being a recruitment system based, but still manual. But I've also alluded that we're getting a recruitment system that one of our finance family departments is using so that they can assist us to fast track reducing the vacancy rate. On the issue of the report to Parliament in terms of the investigation status, I will get guidance from the Minister there as the executive. But I think it is a report we can prepare and the Minister will endorse it. The last question, Chair, I did not get it. Even in this room, we're struggling to understand Honorable Sokwati saying what is the significance of reaching a target of 92% for Africans. I'm not sure. I can't make what the question is or whether it was a statement. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, GPA and GPF for responding to questions. If members want to make follow-up questions, please do so. Dr. Beck.
Chair, I must first address your decision not to take points of order in this committee, which is entirely within the rules of Parliament to raise points of order. You had not, by the time that you shut it down, inquired what my point of order was. And so for you to assume that you have the right not to take points of order in this committee is very troubling indeed. And I hope this will be the first and last time that you do so. I will circle back to some of the missed questions from the GEPF. The first question is to the Minister. It seems, Minister, that you're saying to pensioners, we must not ask so-called unfair questions. And I want to understand whether you believe, Minister, whether a salary hike to more than 10 million rand for the CEO, representing for him an almost 9% increase year on year, and 3 times your own salary, Minister, which is already generous. Are you saying that that's fair in a South African cost of living crisis context? Did I understand your answer correctly? I also want to understand from the GPF, even though you say you have a policy, how can we on the one hand say that more than 3% is not affordable, but the same GEPF can massively bail out the country during COVID? On the missed question on the Mpati report, we know the history. We know the board approved the report. What we want to see is the report. So can we please get your assurance with a simple yes that this report will be given to the committee within a week? On the unlisted investments, there was a missed question. We have an estimate of how many jobs have been created by investments. I want to know, does the GEPF have an estimation on how many jobs have been lost by GEPF unlisted investments going bankrupt over the last 5 years? And if you don't have that answer, can you do some analysis and get back to us, please? Onto the GPAA missed questions. It's just one that I want to follow up on, actually, and it's this. We now have nearly 150 million rand in fruitless and irregular expenditure and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. We have 9 executives and senior managers named in the media reports for more than 6 months now. So would the CEO please answer, when are we finally at the stage that warrants an SIU investigation? Does it have to be 20 executives? Does it have to be 300 million rand in fruitless and wasteful expenditure? Can you quite simply, in layman's terms, tell us what is your threshold? That's it, Chair.
Okay. Any other member wants to make a follow-up question? I don't see a hand on the platform. Let me start with GPF. Okay, let me start with the Minister. You ask the question to the Minister, then GPF and GPA. Minister, over to you.
The problem, sir, if Dr. Beck is making an insinuation and he says that that's a question, what is that insinuation? The insinuation we're trying to respond to when I said it's an unfair question is an insinuation that suggests that the principal officer gives the increase of certain percentage for pensioners and he gives himself a particular increase, which is a wrong insinuation because the principal officer's salary is determined by the board on the basis of benchmarking across all other institutions. I can safely say I'm happy with the salary of the principal officer if I compare institutions of that size. In that sense, I'm saying Yes. Most institutions, even with assets less than this, are paying their principal officer better. Now, I'm happy with that. As to the increase to pensioners, that determination is made on the basis of an actuarial evaluation and by actuaries. By the way, the past 2 years, the actuaries suggested that we as government must take a pension holiday. We don't contribute to the pension fund. It was an actuarial evaluation, but we didn't exercise that right. We continue to contribute to the fund. What am I suggesting? What I'm suggesting is that let's not personalize this issue to the principal officer. The increase is determined based on by a different process, distinct from the salaries in principal office. In that sense, I agree with that. Thanks.
Thanks, Minister. GPF.
Thank you, Chair. On the Party Commission of Inquiry report outcomes, Chair, we will liaise through the Minister's office to see how we share the available reports. If the Chair will recall, the Party Commission of Inquiry report was for the President, and the Minister of Finance was tasked with implementing it. So we have reported to the Ministry, and through the Ministry we'll engage on the sharing of the reports and the responses to the recommendations by both PIC and the GEPF. Chair, on the question of losses, I'll ask the Head of Investment to deal with that question.
No, thank you, PO. So at present, we do not have the estimate of jobs that have been lost. There are some companies which are in distress and continue to receive the attention of the necessary department within the PIC. What we will do is undertake to request the PIC to perform that analysis of, in the event that a company is either in distress or is closed down and liquidated, how much employment, in terms of employment, what has the impact been on the GPF assets? Thank you.
And Chair, Honorable Berg's question on or the statement that the GPF rescued the fiscus during COVID, maybe he can elaborate and give direction on the extent of the GPF's intervention there, because we, to the best of our knowledge, we did not do that, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. GPAA, is there a question to respond to?
Chairperson, we will respond. The first part of the question from Honorable Berg is that there is irregular and fruitless expenditure, but there are no dismissals, there are no SIU, there are no asset forfeiture. That's the question. I'm going to attempt again, and this time I'm not giving it to the CFO, I will do it myself. There are regulations around the PFMA and Treasury regulations themselves to say this is now the accounting aspect. If there is an irregular expenditure, there must be a test that gets done to determine whether there was loss or not. I think this issue of irregular expenditure has come up many times and being incorrectly interpreted. Because irregular doesn't mean people stole money or people, it's irregular because you did not follow the whole process of the procurement. But the organization may end up having a benefit of that procurement. So there is a test that you put in place before you discipline people. As far as fruitless and wasteful, also there is a process where people will be taken through a disciplinary process and then the outcome thereof is implemented. Now, I'm not sure at this stage whether, as the acting CFO, I should just take a newspaper clip and say I am suspending people based on that, and I am putting SIU and asset forfeiture unit and all those on them. I am saying there is a legal and labor relations process in each case, and each case is acted upon its own merits. You don't just lump people and call them names and then unleash things on them. There is a process. That's why we have a constitution and we have the law. Thank you, Chair.
Can I just add one point, Chair? Can I just add one point?
Okay,
Can I just add one point? It seems Honorable Beck suggests that the only route is SIU, whereas the CEO has indicated that a number of these cases have been submitted with late charges with the police, which of necessity presupposes all other processes will follow. Is that you said laying charges with the police is an incorrect route?
Minister, are you still there?
No, Chairperson, I think I finished. I just say I wanted to add that the CEO has made reference to the fact that charges have been laid with the police.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Honorable Squad. Honorable Squatty, I see you are raising the hand to make a follow-up question.
Thank you, Chair. My gadget is actually frozen. Thank you. I wanted to just to clarify on the issue of the employment of minority. I was asking as to what are the actual limitations for GPAA in the appointment of minority groups relative to African category? That was my question. Maybe I was tongue-tied. I don't know, but that was my actual question to GPAA. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Honorable Squatty. Dr. Beck.
Chairperson, there's a follow-up question to the Minister. How many of the individuals implicated in the party commission have been charged and sent to jail? If you're saying that the SIU is not the appropriate vehicle, can you please answer that question? That's it for now, Chair.
Okay. GPF, is there a question that you have to respond to?
He asked the question to me.
Okay, over to you, Minister.
He asked the question to me, how many of those people have been charged? I don't know that offhand. Secondly, the SIU is not charging people. It's just collecting information. If they are going to bring those cases back to the police, it comes to the same issue. So we report to the police whether what they do and check the cases is for them to charge people. We can't then force them to do their work. There are a lot of cases, PIs, even SARS, FIC, we have laid a lot of charges to the police. So it's for the police to act. And that question can be posed to the police.
Thanks, Minister. GPAA, can you respond to the question raised by Honorable Squat?
Chairperson, I'll ask the head of HR to talk to our employment equity targets and all categories of the races. Over to you.
Thank you, CEO. Thank you, Chairperson. In terms of our employment equity, we have certain targets as we reported in the APP for all the different race groups. And we employ people in terms of those targets as set out in our employment equity policy. Where the minority groups are concerned, we also look at them in certain instances where we don't have representativity in certain levels. Then we also consider them for employment to comply with the overall equity targets. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Dr. Berg.
So just to be clear from the minister, he doesn't know whether anybody has been charged and sent to jail, which then circles back to the question, maybe the minister can answer this. If 150 million and 9 officials is not yet a high enough threshold to involve the SIU urgently, what is the threshold, minister? Is it 300 million? Is it 20 officials? That's it, Chair.
For what? I can't understand. What the threshold for what?
Chair, via you.
Okay.
Minister, the GPAA is a dumpster fire at this point. We need to get serious people to look at what they're doing over there. They clearly do not have the capacity to resolve their own matters. I'm asking you because you've taken the responsibility on yourself now to defend them. If 150 million in fruitless and wasteful expenditure and 9 officials implicated over the last 6 months alone is not a sufficient threshold to ask the SIU to investigate what's happening at this entity, what then is the sufficient threshold for you, Minister?
Said, the CEO has said to you. The CEO has said to you, people are not charged on the basis of newspaper print cuttings. People have got rights, we've got to investigate. So far, they've investigated the officials they've responded to. And that's what they've done. And some of them want to see who now is under disciplinary hearing. And what they've done, in addition to that, is to go to the police to lay the charges. And that's what the process should be. There's no threshold. Any case we report to the police, irrespective of size.
Okay. Dr. Berg, you want to make a follow-up question?
Yes,
Or is
Chairperson.
the legacy end?
No, it's a follow-up question, Chairperson.
Okay.
Minister, we're not asking about the police, we're asking about the SIU. I can put my question simpler if you like, but I suspect you know the question already. The question is this: when are we getting investigators to investigate the GPAA? And if we're not getting the SIU, who are these so-called investigators that you're referring to? Who's conducting the investigation and why is it taking so long?
Dr. Beck must understand. Dr. Beck must understand my assignment. I'm the Minister of Finance. I'm not the Minister of Police. My duty is to report any criminal conduct to the police. Why are the police taking so long? That question belongs to the Minister of Police.
Okay. I think we're done with engagement on the 2 reports. Before I make closing remarks, do we have announcements? Secretariat?
Not at this stage, sir.
Okay. Except to say that the response by Treasury and SARS is on Friday.
Yes.
On yesterday's public hearing. Okay. What's wrong? Sister Deb, can you hear me? I press the wrong.
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Okay. Thanks very much, honorable members and the minister, the board and the executive of GPF, the board and the executive of GPAA, National Treasury officials, officials of parliament, and everybody who's in attendance, and other stakeholders if they were in attendance. And thank the minister for providing political leadership. I think what we can say is that let's commend the minister for having been proactive on this issue, which was of public concern, the issue of GPAA, with allegations that 1 billion rand has been committed to a lease which does not exist. We don't have all the facts in this regard. We thank the minister for dealing with this matter proactively, and the law enforcement agencies will do their part. And also to say that we believe that the cases that are there at GPAA will follow due process. Due process is defined by the Constitution, not only by the Labour Relations Act, but also derive its existence from Section 33 of the Constitution that outline what the due process is all about. So in dealing with these challenges that are facing GPAA, the minister will from time to time update Parliament as to what is he doing as an executive authority, somebody who's playing oversight role on behalf of cabinet. And also thank GPAA for having achieved an unqualified audit, but please attend to the issues that are raised in your audit report, because there are material findings. Attend to those issues. And the minister will brief us on the issue of the merger of the two public entities, because you have to take a decision whether you fill all those vacancies or you put a moratorium. We can't decide for you seated here. You will decide as to how you want to drive the process of merging the two public entities. And also want to commend the performance of GPF, which has achieved more than almost 3 trillion worth of asset under its administration, which is a vote of confidence in regard to the situation that many SOEs are finding themselves. As this committee, we have been raising the issue of the performance of SOEs for many years, even before I joined. If you check the legacy reports from previous parliaments, the issue of performance governance of SOEs has been top on those reports. So if there is a positive performance, we have to acknowledge first that we acknowledge the growth of GPF assets. There are challenges that have to be attended to. So we don't want the minister and the GPAA and GEPF leave this meeting thinking that we don't acknowledge what we are doing. It will be wrong for Parliament to do so, because we are here to represent the public, and the public know what we are doing. So we do acknowledge positive developments, and we wish that you will attend to some of the issues that have been raised by the minister, by the members of this committee. So please go back and do your work for the interest of people of South Africa. Let's adjourn the meeting. We'll meet again on Friday. Thanks very much, honorable members and minister and other stakeholders in the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair. In the meeting.
Thank you, Chair.